Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much.
So I was thinking
Mhm.
before we get into the rest of this, I don't. Okay, so let me restate that. To me, suing the city or district feels lower vibrational and lowering yourself to their level.
Mhm.
I feel like being you and living as your example
Mhm.
is a much stronger statement, and being the example of what they attempted to do but couldn't take away from you
Hmm.
is the high vibe path. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. What's there for me is I'm collecting a degree of what will happen. Like there's a degree of I broke the matrix. And so I have found that if I continue to proceed forward, when I got out, I literally put a sticky note on it that says not my problem. And so there's a degree of fun and play with it that I have that is like today, this morning, I woke up with a channeled idea of like putting a presentation together and then sending it to them. So there's like this creative play that I have that I have no clue what's going to come about it. With that, I did lose a very successful high-end photography, wedding photography business. So like I did lose $70,000 a year because of that. So there is a degree of I believe I'm entitled to something because of his involvement, and I don't know what could come about it. And I don't necessarily want to pursue it like intensely as like I need to go find an attorney. That's where it just doesn't feel good to find an attorney like that. And if someone came about and was like, oh, I'm like, this aligns for me, I want to take this on, then I'm like, yes, let's go. And energetically, it has not worked to pursue that. It's more of being myself and waiting for someone to see, oh, I want to be a part of that, and then taking it from there. And I've documented everything for a year because I mean, A, the business, and B, I mean, I would having 3 to 4 PTSD attacks a day. And so the degree of like actual physical, mental wellness that I took on, like I was completely dysfunctional for a year. I also lost my house. I lost my full-time job. Like I was truly impacted in a degree that I believe as an American citizen, I'm entitled to pursue. And I don't want to spend the energy pursuing it. It's more of, it's not my problem. Someone will find it when it's there. And I didn't expect to go after it at all in the beginning at all. And what was there is that I just started to try to show up on social media as myself. And that's when they called the cops on me. And that's when they called the crisis responder, or they threatened to call the crisis responders. And that's when I just lost my shit. And so I've been trying to get back from that losing my shit and get out of that lower vibration. And so I don't want to go back. So I definitely agree that's there. And this conversation right now, the energetics I have in my body feels so good. And so it's more of just playing with it and also creating content and discovering like, oh, they'll put you in a protection order. I now know about protection orders. Oh, they'll do this. And the degree of I just find the way the system's broken. Like even this morning, I went to go, I'm like walking my dog, and Spirit's like, go see the menu at this place downstairs because they deliver to my room. And I was like, okay, cool. I walk in there. I walk in there at the time when their computer system is broken and it doesn't work. So it's just everywhere I go, something's broken. And I knew the person that was working there too. And so it's just this like alignment thing that I've got on the 3D energetic grid of the town I live in that everyone's involved in. And so there is a degree of the awakening that's happening in my physical that is coming about with my involvement. And I don't want to be attached at all. And it teaches me how to be detached also. So it's like a degree of training inside of it too.
I love the presentation though. I love that idea and concept because that is a more playful way of doing it, and it's more of this is what happened, this is how it went down, this is what I've done with it.
Yep.
Like in spite of you, I'm going to overcome everything. Like just
And
keep trying. It doesn't matter.
yep. And that's kind of my take. And what's there is like my personal agenda is accountability, responsibility, and sovereignty. My service agenda is transformation, mental health awareness, nervous system. Like I'm just simply, this is what I'm doing. Like I don't care what y'all do. I'm out to make this as a movie. And what's honestly there, quite honestly, is I'm just trying to find a way to get them to see me so they don't get like drugged through this way later and I get heavier hitters and heavier hitters and heavier hitters. Like I was good just having a conversation with them and clearing up the mud between us and moving on, and they keep using the system against me. I'm like, because then it was now they think they have a defamation case against me, and I'm just like, I don't know how to get you to see the other side of the story because you're creating all this fear script that is just going to have a come to Jesus moment. And so I don't know how to bridge that divide and wake them up to the degree of like, you can stop pursuing me now. I'm going to keep
I don't
going.
The message I'm getting is that you don't have to. It'll
Mm,
fix itself. And
mhm.
if they do take you to court for defamation, you'll be able to walk away from that just laughing.
Yeah, that's
Like
where
you won't
I'm
even
at.
need a lawyer. You won't even need a lawyer. Like you'll just walk in and show them everything, and it'll just be like the judge will be like, "You guys are nuts."
Yeah, that's how I feel
It's
too. And
because you're sharing your story. You're
yeah,
sharing your story. They
yeah.
can't keep you from sharing your truth.
And a lot of this came out. So September 2022, when I was in the protection order, I went in there, which just all is it's so beautifully orchestrated. And I really hope I have the audio because I go in there, I raise my hand, and he's like, you need to wait. And then the fire chief talks for like 10 minutes about how I want to get rich and famous on this, how I'm so-called autistic and all this stuff. And then at the end of it, I had just said I was not given ample time and would like to create a request of continuance. And he was like, I wish she would have spoke first. And I was like, no shit, Sherlock. Like I literally was trying to get your attention. And then I just had to listen to him sound like the biggest idiot, and that he's recorded publicly talking about the fact that you're trying to take the woman who's out to change the planet for mental health and calling her that she wants to get rich and famous. Like, I'm just like, you're just dumb, like dumb on dumb on dumb. And so it's painful to hear it too, because these people I love and truly do care about, and they're just like, are you taking your medication? So they just think I'm off my rocker, and I'm like, I'm fucking brilliant, and like I don't, like, you just look dumb, and I don't know what else to do, and I overprotect them from their own insanity and own ignorance. And so that's a lot of the self-sabotage that I've had, is that I'm just afraid of what the public's going to do to them, because there is a degree of what is going to come when I do speak publicly.
That's outside of your control. You either trust source or you don't. It's all going to be exactly as it's meant to.
Yeah.
Whatever it is,
Yep.
whatever comes to them is what's coming to them,
Yep.
and that's due to their karma and their ignorance.
Yeah.
And that's why I always write it off, right? To like what I always say, just write it off to ignorance because it's
I
way
love
out of my control.
I love
I
that how
just
you created that too, because I feel like I can just literally like a write-off for like taxes. I'm like, I'm just
mhm.
gonna write this off. It's a write-off.
It's just there's just no point because they're not going to get it until they have to,
Mhm.
and that's not my. Who am I to take away their lesson?
Yeah.
I went through my lesson. It's not my job to take yours away.
Yeah. And that's where
Like,
I'm at. Like the hypersensitivity is like, I learned my lesson by this whole experience, and it was very traumatic. And I don't want other people to have traumatic rude awakenings. And yeah, that you can't protect people from it. And so I've learned that the hard way, and just felt that energetic wall, and it just hurts. It's just like it literally is an electric fence that I try to keep going up against. And which is fascinating too, because I always like there's that section of the Bible that I've always like connected with that I didn't get, where it's like they could see people in hell, like Abraham and whatever, and they can see it. And I'm like, oh, I think this is it. Like, I think that's what we're talking about, is like, I can see them, and there's no way to reach across and bridge the
no,
divide.
not at all. They have to want to bridge it for themselves, and
Mhm.
until they're ready to bridge it for themselves, there's nothing anyone can do for them.
Yeah. Well, and then that's where my little 6'2" leverage limitation, I'm like, they're consuming all of my content right now. So if I posted this publicly, they might see the insanity.
And that's their fear, right? That's because that's their fear speaking. It's just like when I was doing that court case that I was telling you about with my son against the district, the first thing that they submitted as evidence was 122 of my YouTube videos. And they literally posted all the links. It's sitting here in writing. And I'm just sitting back and I'm like, what are they doing with this?
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned what was going on with your son. And I'm like, yeah, it's my truth. And the lawyer was like, obviously they're scared of your truth. And I said, well, that's not my problem.
Don't involve
And then,
yourself in my situation.
right.
Like that's where it's like they're like, you asked for this. Like, and that's something I'll come back to also, is like the person on Marco Polo who called my former husband. My former husband's a detective with law enforcement. Of anyone who's supposed to respond, like he would be like the one to do it. And he didn't, because he's like, I don't know. That's not my space to get involved with. He knew not to get involved. The Lacey fire chief I haven't talked to for 7-8 years wants to respond to this call off duty. Like, I'm just like, what point do you not see the liability you walked into the second you walked into, and then you want to blame it on me, and I had a near death experience because of your involvement? Sorry, there's some sort of liability there that as a public official you just have to face the music to, and you can chase me down and you just give me more something to respond to more powerfully. And they don't like me talking about orgasm. So that's the other thing that they said I'm
Oh,
inappropriate.
yeah.
Like, it's a medical emergency that I can't fucking change. Like, it's just what happened. I don't want to talk about this publicly either. And now I have to roll with the fucking punches because you took me in. And like, it's just like, do you think I want to talk about this publicly? Like, it's not something I would have chosen to talk about publicly. And that's the only thing I can do now with leveraging the traumatic experience that I had to change the system.
Let the system collapse. It needs to.
Mm,
Unconditionally love them from a distance, and that's all you can do.
yeah.
Because it needs to fall on its face completely. And that's one of the reasons I'm planning on leaving the country next summer.
Yeah.
Because I see 3 to 5 years from now, within the next 3 to 5 years, this country's falling on its face.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm like, I'm only being here for 3 months because I'm like, I can only think in 3 month times because there is just so much shift in the timeline shifts each day, and the just what like a week is like a year is how it feels now. It's like I go through
Yes.
the week starts and I'm in like the pace is so fast. I mean,
It's
even
amplified.
too, yeah, like when I went to go, like I woke up one morning and I was like, Spirit was just like, go here to look at the apartment. I literally walk to the space. Like I'm doing that like within an hour. Like it was just like, oh my gosh, like I just take the steps. There's just step. And it's so, once I get in my head, it stops working. So it's just
Yes.
stop doing that.
That's the tough part, right? Is to separate and disappear from the mind, because the mind wants to take control and wants to feel like it has a purpose when its really purpose is to distract us.
Yeah. Yep. It is a distraction. And yeah, changing the environment, going from my former house to where I'm at now, I'm in a whole different energetic space that yeah, I'm just like, Spirit's got me so much and I am done with the resistance. Like I'm just done with like, okay, fine, you have it your way because you win, and it's way better than anything I could come up with.
Well, that's the reality, right? That's the truth.
Mhm.
There's always a plan, and we just don't get it, and we don't need to.
Yeah.
Once we have faith and trust, then the rest doesn't matter. It'll all fall in place. It's exactly as it's meant to.
And what's fascinating too, so in 2020, my word was power for the year. And I was essentially like, fuck hope. That's what I said I was like, fuck hope. Like, I'm done hoping. Like, I'm going to take action and I'm going to be in power and I'm going to take this. And it was just wild to have power as my word of the year, have the electrical emergency, and then be taken into the system. And there was just a degree of like, I didn't fucking mean to manifest this. Like, this is not what I was looking for. Of the degree of power that I do hold. Like, it is a massive responsibility, and being able to connect with other people who hold that same power and not be such a freak show or not be such a like alone with it. It's like, oh no, this is a normal way to live when you've transcended a disempowered state. Like, oh yeah, we have been given the keys of the kingdom. We have been given this power, and there's other people out there that hold it, and it's beyond excited to find the people who have it and are on the path to wanting to receive it.
Separating ourselves from the ones that don't is the key, and allowing them to leave, which is not easy at all times.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that big, and there's a degree of being responsible for other people that I still account
It tears
for.
me apart daily. It tears me apart daily.
Yeah.
And what I've learned most is with my kids is they're a living example of how to be hands off and just guide them on their own journey. Allow them to make their own mistakes, learn their own lessons without doing stuff that they can never come back from, right? Because as a parent, I'll do my best to do that, but there's lessons that they need to learn on their own that I can't interfere with.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be that much worse down the line.
Which I just got when you said that was like, it's not my soup to make. Like, it's like, that is their soup. They're going to mix their own agreements and ingredients. That's the word I was trying to say. And
well, they're both accurate. They're both accurate, so it's okay.
Yes.
They have their own contracts.
and it's messy, and that write-off thing is really powerful and very helpful. I like that a lot. Yeah.
It just goes back to that, ignorance is bliss, and allow the ignorance to just be it.
Yeah.
Because until they know any better, or until they see things for what they are, it doesn't matter.
There's
nothing that any of us can say that's going to impact where they're at.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not going to believe it until they feel it.
Ignorance is bliss I just like, there's a dissonance in that, just knowing bliss state now. And I'm like, I did not have bliss before. And ignorance does have a degree of, you just do not have the pain in your body against what's happening. Like there is such a dissociation that you can wake up, do this, be miserable, and just be miserable. Like you don't have the misery and the internal like gut wrenching, tear you apart feeling.
once we connect, there is no more ignorance is bliss.
Hmm.
Before we connect, you can be as ignorant as you want. It doesn't matter because you don't know the difference. But once you connect, there's no going back.
There's no going back. Yeah, the red, green,
There's
blue.
no going back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just said red, green, and blue pill. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know where the green one came from, but I remember the red or blue.
Yeah. I was like, I took both and they
Yeah.
maybe
Created green and purple, and you're good.
that's oh, it's a wild world. It's a wild, wild world. And yeah, to be so misunderstood and like doesn't matter what you say, it's gonna go through their filter and you're like, okay, we tried again. It's still, yeah, it's a wild, wild world.
Once you become okay with being misunderstood, you're nothing impacts you. Nothing. And it's taken me a while to get there
Mhm,
because at first it was extraordinarily uncomfortable,
mhm,
especially when it was people that I thought I was close to
mhm,
on the journey, just on their own pace on the journey.
mhm,
Nowhere near keeping up to the quantum leaping, but at
mhm.
their own pace on the journey, I really thought that they would understand a little better or
Yeah,
be more understanding, but they have no interest.
yeah, no. And the quantum leaping is something that you said that on our last call. The like I am on a trajectory of quantum leaping and it does create that division faster, 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 faster. And it's gut wrenching to have people that I thought like what's showing up is I thought I was close with them.
Mm-hmm.
In my brain, I had that connection. And then now,
Mm-hmm.
like in my heart, I'm like, oh wow, we had no connection at all. We were just,
it's
yeah,
it's
what's
kind
showing
of
up in
scary. It's kind of scary because it amplifies and multiplies and just it moves so much faster. The more quantum leaping you do, the faster and faster and further you go.
yeah. Have
And
you read the
it's
book
like
right, Reality Revolution by whatever. Oh, that I read that book like the week before this my experience happened. And he essentially got shot in his home, was taken to the hospital, and then the bullet didn't do anything to him, and he was home. He made it back home while they were still there trying to investigate what happened to him. Like he just like walked in like nothing happened and just completely, yeah,
freaked everybody out.
yeah.
Hmm.
So it was crazy. So yeah, there was a lot of doing that. I'd been meditating for so much. There was so much that spirit had like trained me in. So I was still very ignorant, which I needed to be able to be ignorant and be delusional in what was going on. And there was a degree of like so much training I had done the year prior that was like, okay, no, I can do this. It does make sense. Then I had a frame to keep holding it as true and real and grounding back into no, I'm real and this is good and this is okay while my freaking mind just the torture of my mind and not necessarily the torture of my mind because I was so clear. It was the equation of not knowing where I was and not knowing how long I was going to be there. It was just a torture chamber of trying to keep grounding myself back and without losing my mind. Like I had one time when I was in the corner with my case and I was like, I'm the top, I'm the top, I'm the top, I'm the top. I'm like, just keep staying here. Like I was losing my ever loving mind and I had to keep grounding and keep grounding and keep grounding in. And for me, that's when I believe that's when I connected to the concept of making it a movie. And that's when I just started getting really good because I was like, oh, this is a movie. Like we're gonna start acting. And so I had the like I was walking and acting, and I was like, I'm gonna get this footage, and I'll be able. I just sat there and talked to the camera for forever. I was like, I'm a content creator. I can do this. And so when I shifted it to that context, that's where life started happening. And then I was like, they're gonna find me dead in here, and that's when they're gonna read my lips and figure out what I was trying to say, and they'll piece it together because all my friends are conscious, brilliant badasses, and y'all can use it. Like that's really where I got to with the before I had the near death experience, realizing I had the experience of like, I'm going to die in here or have solitary confinement, there's an experience of, um, it's so good because my friends will figure it out. For me, it's like I didn't die. So now I'm like, this is so good. I'm trying to push it forth. And then translating that out has been like, that does not work. So I'm trying to get people to see my vision or get people to see my dream or get people to see what I created in there. That's the utter destruction of my like that's where I just have to detach and keep finding people who can hold this frequency because I sound like a complete psychopath when they hear my vision.
They won't get it until they go through it. They're not
Mm-hmm,
meant to.
mm-hmm,
They're not meant to. You can't explain it until you go through it.
mm-hmm,
It's just impossible.
mm-hmm,
Like when I explain to people what happened with the stroke, they're like, "There's no way. Like that's
mm-hmm.
impossible." Like it's impossible. Even when I went to the hospital the next day, they're like, there was no way you had a stroke. And I'm like, I had a stroke.
Yeah.
Promise. I had a major stroke.
And I don't have whatever that is that people like when people say something, I believe them. Like that's just what I like. Why else would they say it? And I also can tell energetics when people are lying anyway. So it's pretty like people
Yeah.
are very forthcoming. All that to say, I'm just like, when you say that, why would that be like, yeah, that's
Because
where
I didn't fit into their version of the story. Their
mm,
version of the story is an ambulance bringing you in right after the stroke happens.
mhm,
Them being able to impact saving your life. Me
yeah,
coming in 26 hours later, 22 hours past any of the times that any of their meds would have helped me,
yeah,
and me walking myself in,
yeah.
there's no way that they could perceive me having a major stroke.
Which just showed up if you were an R with your experiences so embodied and in your body, like your body's going to take care of you. So do you actually
Mhm.
leverage and use your brain that's having that experience? And I see that too. So I had an experience when I got out where I work. There was a client who's NFL, major brain damage, and just never like every interaction has been terrible. After I got out, I talked with him and like we had a really powerful exchange and it just made sense and it was very direct, very clear. And I helped him and he gave me a high five and I was just like, that just happened. And so there's this experience of those that like in the dementia world, of brain trauma world and all that stuff, like they're like, I feel like they're in their body more so. And we just don't have people who are in their body to actually connect with them on that level. Is that resonant at all?
Something to that extent, if you really want to break it down, the spiritual awakening is the death of ego. So
Hmm.
it's your mind releasing that control factor. But
Mm-hmm.
it takes something major for our mind to want to release control. And that is the awakening period. Whatever it is, no matter how extreme it is, that's also in your death thing. That's also dementia. That's also CTE, when your mind starts losing control.
Yeah.
So when your mind starts losing control, you slip into just being you and being at peace with whatever you are dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
because you're actually able to be connected to source
Mm-hmm.
and not question it because you don't have the capacities to question it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that, feel that. And the energetics of what I've experienced, people being concerned for me or projecting their whole stuff on me. Like I can feel that because that's the biofeedback in my body. And there's a degree of like not being around people who are able to stay in their power. And like when you're in that, how I say it, I can't live beyond what someone believes. And when I'm around someone who doesn't believe I'm broken, disorder, mental health, I'm high functioning. Once I get into an environment of like, does she taking her meds today? That experience, I'm just like dysfunctional. And so that's been the biofeedback for me. I'm like, I literally become my environment in some ways because of the energetics. And I don't know how to like climb out, and just where creating environments that support me and see my brilliance and not put me in those boxes is just all I can do because I just don't have the nervous system stamina to insert those spaces anymore.
So live in your column. The thing that I shared with you, create your column and live in it and believe in
Mm-hmm.
it with everything you are, and it'll protect you from all that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter what anyone's projecting on you because you're direct to source, and source is going to keep you safe.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't, they're always going to see their perception of you. It doesn't matter who it is. They're
Yeah.
just going to see what they're able to see and believe for themselves because they don't
That,
have a comprehension of it.
I've heard that so many different ways before, and that just cleared me so much. That was just so flat. They're going to see their perception of you. That's it. That's all that's
That's
there.
it.
Like that's all we can do.
Yeah.
That's all that anyone can do. I am always like, you simply are my perception of you. That's all you can do.
Right.
Like you're a different person in every single person's perception, and they get to create you in that way. And I really get to see that too with the people that I know and love and hold and stand for them, and the way I see the potential in them. Like I treat them so different. And where people who don't have that capacity, they're going to project a lens on me and they don't hold me to my potential. They're like, are you like, they're just that control, that whole world. So really someone gets to say how they go. Yeah. They just unlocked a lot. Mother-in-law, former mother-in-law just showed up in a big world there when you were talking. I was like, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of freedom showed up there, and learning how to protect my own energy. Cause something shows up too is, going like when I was married, when I go to their house, I would get a hug right when I walked in the door, and it would literally, I'd drain all my energy, and I'd like needed to drink alcohol to feel like myself again. And so that's been my life, going through life of, I don't like being touched by people because I lose my energy and then I lose myself so much. So I just don't know how to have my own containment of my energy. And so it's been devastating to know how to function, because they don't teach you these things. It's not something that the world talks about at all. And then, yeah,
That's where the column comes in.
yeah,
The column will fix all that, I promise you.
yeah.
It'll stop everything. It'll stop
Mhm.
everything, every single thing. It'll just stop it, because nothing can impact the column between you and source directly. You're protected directly from source.
Have you created a
What can
guided, like a 5-minute guided walk through that at all? Like something someone could walk through?
I send people it as a note for them to read to themselves, because I'm audiological.
Mhm.
So I don't ever do guided meditations because I feel their energy through their voice.
Mhm.
So I don't do any guided meditation, no matter who it is.
Mhm.
So I would not impose that upon anyone else.
Makes sense.
Because again, they're going to feel their reflection, their perception of me, whatever that is.
Yep, 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 yep,
And
yep.
if they're not going to hear what I can give them anyways, then it doesn't matter.
That's true.
So
It's just there for
that's why I
me.
always leave it up to the peer person.
There for me, like when we had connected that first time and talking about the column, I was tapping into it and then was forgetting. There's just not an external prompt that I have in my life that helps me remember. And so there's something I want to create, that maybe I'll just set an alarm on my phone or do something that has some sort of structure that I can follow to at least get started until I have it as a practice.
So my ritual is, for me, this is what works for me. In
Mhm.
the beginning, it was every 4 hours. In the
Mm,
beginning, I just set an alarm for every 4 hours during the day.
okay.
After a while, I noticed I didn't need to keep doing it every 4 hours, and it became one of those things where it was whenever I needed it. Now it's when I go to bed and I lay down at night, I immediately connect,
Oh.
because Source sends me messages of what I need to do that night in my sleep,
Mhm,
what
mhm.
my body needs to do. So I ground myself to Earth, Mother Earth, and I ground myself to the planet that I created, AF37. So I'm grounded to both at all times, and I'm directly connected to Source at all times.
Mhm.
And then when I wake up in the morning, I do it again. It's part of my morning rituals before I do my energy work,
Yeah, I
because
feel
it's
that.
all part of clearing all the energy and just bringing the light upon me in the best way possible. Being
Yeah,
able to stand into the highest level of vibration I'm able to.
I feel that so much. My hand's like, yes, 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 yes. What shows up is it's really intense. I feel that, and I feel so for me, I will like lucid dream almost every morning and night. And so that's just where like falling asleep, there's so much that formulates and clears. And then when I wake up, so much formulates and clears. And so and then I do feel quote unquote tapped into receiving words, pictures, all that stuff all day long. And I really don't have that equipping for I'm by myself all the time. So it's very easy by myself. And then when I go out in public, I get so in my head about other people and what they're doing and all that stuff. That's not where my practice is. I don't have a good practice for that at all.
Practice the column ritually,
Yeah.
daily.
Mhm.
Just figure it out what works for you every 3 hours, every 4 hours, every 6 hours, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because then what's going to happen is the days that you're leaving the house, you'll do it as a reminder, but you also know that it's impenetrable, that it's something that protects you from anything and everything.
Yeah.
And once you start believing that with all you are, we are what we believe.
Yeah.
Like the rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The problem is when we're around people and we start feeling everything that they are, we start picking up on it
Mhm.
and unintentionally take it on, because that's how we were trained.
Mhm.
I need to be there for everyone, no matter
Mhm.
who it is, because
Mhm.
I see it, so I need to be able to stand up for it.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
not my job. It's not
Mhm.
my job.
Mhm.
My job is to guide others to find it for themselves, not to protect them from themselves.
Yeah. What's
Everybody has their own path and journey.
what's formulating for me, as you said that, so it's 2020, I got connected to the chakras. I just did a self-discovery journey. I focused on root for a long season, then focused on that long season, and source just provided stuff that was in alignment. Like I just received, this was in space of that. And so that's where I literally was walking through that process. And so when this all happened, I literally was at the final stage of that process. So there's a degree of like, this is all in alignment. Like I made this up. Like this is the proof of my methodology that I've created, which isn't something I created. It's just talking about what God's doing. Or, like it's not, I didn't make it up. It's just look at the planet. All that to say, what you said, like really cleared me out compared to having so many colors and so many like distinct energy centers, just seeing it as that whole white column, and that my mind can like Velcro this like dark stuff on me when it's like, that's not even a thing. I'm making that up. Like that doesn't exist. And so being able to be like, no, it's pure white column all the time, all the time, all the time. And what I do see is the degree of grounding and connecting to something that makes sense and having it as an actual something that's created like that something is resonant there. I have a strong resonance to I can feel the planet Venus like really, really loudly. So I don't know what that is. And then I also have my own star named after me. So I don't know, maybe I don't know what to do there. Like, I don't know what the ethereal or the space stuff doesn't resonate to me. I'm very literal, grounded 3D. And so I can get so resistant to concepts of creating a planet or astral travel or just all the things in the woo spaces. I just have never explored any of those.
Don't worry about it. You don't
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
Just be you. You're perfectly you.
Yeah.
You're absolutely perfectly you.
Thank you.
You're absolutely amazing and exactly how you're meant to be.
Thank you. I'm like trying to receive that because that doesn't like I'm like don't want to receive. Uh yeah, I'm receiving that. Do you know anything around the energetics of the planet Venus? No,
No.
don't either. I don't understand how it's so loud. I don't understand it. It's just like there's a hypersensitivity to it.
Everyone has their own connections to everything based
Mm,
on where they stem from
mhm.
since the creation of everything. So maybe you created Venus. Who knows?
Yeah, there you go.
Why not?
I want like
Anything's possible.
anything's possible, and we're literally all making it up. So I could say that, and it would be true for me. And like we literally we're free to believe what we want. We are free to believe what we want. Like we literally can believe everything. And does it work for you or not? Like that's really at the end of the day. And I'm like,
You'll
part of
know
me,
your truth.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're the
that's
only one that knows your truth. It's
yeah,
between you and source, and that's it.
yeah,
Just like I explained last time about the Akashic records, it's between you and source. Nothing
yeah,
else matters.
yeah,
Everyone's going to have their own perception of your records anyway. So what's the difference if they see them or not?
yeah,
Why should they see them if all they're going to do is see what they want to see?
yeah. I
They're going
only
to see it from their power hungry way.
I only had one Akashic Records reading and they like didn't get anything. So I was like, I don't know what that means.
It means they're older than them and they can't interpret it.
Oh, I'm like locked away. Yeah, I've never, it's just, there's such reluctance to the woo space just simply from fear of losing credibility or losing the grounding I have in the 3D. Once I tap into those spaces, it's like people just stop listening to you completely. So with what I desire to do and be and impact the 3D, keeping it through science and logic
Or
brain,
they
like
believe, or they believe you're crazy as fuck anyway. So just go all in.
it's true.
Who
Yeah,
the fuck
that's
cares?
true.
Who cares?
Yes,
Embrace it.
that's true. That's probably my own resistance speaking.
100%. You're terrified of yourself. Yes.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, that is true. I am terrified of myself.
Mm-hmm. It's going to hold you back until you're done.
Yeah. And then when
Until
you,
you decide not to allow it anymore.
yeah. And then it gets really quiet when that terrified of self part goes away.
It does.
Yeah. Cause
But that's okay.
it's just like a little charge that keeps getting created. Did you get the Gene Keys book yet?
Sorry, I had a call come in one.
Did
It
you,
muted me for that
oh,
second.
you're good. Did you get the Gene Keys book yet?
No, I didn't. I have a credit though. I keep forgetting to go buy it. It's just sitting there waiting. I'm not. I go through cycles of going through books. Like I know how my mind works. I'm audiological, so I figured out the best program for me, which is a month of nonstop books, anywhere from 5 to 8 books in a month,
Okay.
and then I stop for 3 months and let
I,
it integrate.
yeah,
And then every 6 months, I have a couple that I always go back to just to see where I'm at compared to the last time I listened to it.
interesting. Yeah, I'll go really deep into learning and then I'm just off. And then I can't do it for a really long time. And then I'll learn. And then yeah, there's like weeks, months that there no more can come in. So it's
Right.
that way
It
too.
just needs to process and integrate.
Yeah.
And I need to adapt it to my life and
Yeah.
adapt it to my knowings and how I can integrate it.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. And it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
The only person that needs to understand that process is you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if anybody does.
And I'll definitely do where listening to books while I sleep because I'm like, it's still going in there. Like I do hypnosis
100%.
stuff like that. So I'm very pro life being easy. And so if I can do it when I'm not conscious, it's like I'll just do that because it's still working. And yeah, being able to take that in.
I learned at a very young age to stay away from hypnosis. It
Oh,
doesn't work well for me because
okay.
it brings me all the way back to my very beginning. And one person who walked me through it didn't understand. And I was talking about when I was just ether before anything physical ever existed, the first trillion years I was alive, before anything physical existed, and they didn't understand. So then they wanted to put me on a whole bunch of antipsychotics because they thought I was nuts. And I'm like, you did the hypnosis. This is your process. I couldn't make this up if I tried. Like, this is what you uncovered. And then that's when I stopped doing those types of things because people couldn't handle it.
I've never I take that back. I did some guided, I had a counselor who did it, and then she was just more like affirmations, not really guiding you through it. She would just speak affirmations into your subconscious, and that's where I first discovered it. And then there's one online that I just do. So I've never really done that with anyone else. And that's dangerous, that they literally could tap you into that. You give it, and then you give the information, then you get stuck on being that bucket, and they have the control over diagnosis and prescriptions and all. Like, that degree of danger is that like, I'm like, please, Lord Jesus, do not teach hypnosis to the mental health institutions. Like, that is too
Well,
great.
and you know, a lot of that was my parents, because when I came back from that first near death experience at 3.5, 4 years old, all my gifts were activated, and I started telling my parents who was dying and when and how they were going to die weeks before it happened. And then I was right every single time. It started really freaking them out. So then they started bringing me to psychiatrists and therapists and everything else, and none of them can get to the bottom of it. So they kept trying. Then they started taking me to neurologists. And finally, a neurologist looked at my mother, and after a whole bunch of scans, and was like, "This kid's a very special kid. You got to leave this kid alone." And that was finally the end of that.
Yeah.
Because apparently, I guess more of my brain was working than the normal person. So they didn't know what to do with me. They just didn't know what to do with me.
Yeah.
And that doctor was the first person that stood up and said, "You've got to leave him alone. You've got to stop this. You're going on this crazy goose chase. You're never going to figure this out."
And that I just hear too, it's like you have gifts, skills, abilities, and a hyper function. And then it's like, we got to find what's wrong with you.
Exactly.
And it's just like, we literally have an I see it as an evolved human state. And we're trying to sedate it off the
Numb it.
planet. And it's so dangerous. And so, yeah, so dangerous. And the momentum and letting it fall. Yeah, that's all there is.
Yeah.
And it's taken care of. I guess I get hooked into that energy and I'm like, oh, it was already planned, orchestrated. I do nothing. It's all done. So yeah, it's I get
It's
my
one of
mind.
the
Yeah.
it's one of the main reasons I started drinking at 9, to numb it all out. I wanted my gifts to be numbed. And I wanted the pain to go away from all the trauma, the abuse I was going through.
Yeah.
But really, it was about numbing my gifts, because my gifts became more of a problem than even my trauma did.
Yeah.
And when the alcohol didn't work, by 12, I started doing coke. When that didn't work, I started different drugs. And that's when I OD'd 7 different times, because I just kept pushing the limits, just kept going.
Yeah. And
There is no limit. I did 25 hits of ecstasy every night for 9 months. Didn't kill me, made me stronger. At one point, I was drinking 3 bottles of liquor a day and doing 3 8 balls of cocaine a day. Just go. My average day.
that sounds expensive.
I was dealing, so it wasn't.
Oh, that is wild. I have
Put
no
a lot of strippers. Put a lot of strippers through. Put a lot of strippers through college. Paid for their houses. Paid for their cars. Did lots of fun stuff.
I have no concept, and yeah, a whole different world. I'm completely quote unquote, I don't know if it's the right word or not, privileged out of. I just have never experienced that. Yeah.
I just found ways to push myself to limits that no one could come back from, because I didn't believe I was different. I didn't believe it when they told me, "Yes, Thomas, when I'm done with this call, can you put the oven on to 350, please?" Okay. He likes making mashed potatoes and broccoli, so I'll make a meatloaf.
I'll cook at 4.
Okay. 4. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, I appreciate the organic direction of whatever. Just showing up in the present moment, seeing what came through. Yeah, I'm excited, and there is a degree of my mind hooking on things. And then it's like, and then it just like has something to what resist to, then it's like feeds that addiction. And what's there is just playing around with how do I create, oh, that's my resistant addiction hook that I've got. Thank you. No, thank you. Present moment. Get back to column. Like my brain is like, this is the addiction. My brain is addicted to that resistance, and it is not.
Every brain is. Every brain is.
Yeah.
That's why all the distractions. That's why everybody gets addicted to everything, because it's all escapisms. It's our brain naturally trying to protect itself.
Yeah. And I hear too, at the same time, like there is a degree of like, you need to escape because you don't, like you said, like what you discovered, like you couldn't function here. So like, if you do unlock this other part of you, you don't get to live here either. So you're lose in that situation, because then you're just alone. Like before being locked, like having that locked away, you at least have people. Once you discover this expression, then you're alone with the expression and yourself as a true self. And then you're alone with it, which is just torturous. And so the thing for me is the internet and just what's getting created by the resonance coming together and people coming together and coming together. There's the momentum that's getting created in regards to that, and what's getting possible in the depth of connections when it's like, we're all connected to ourselves. So when we come together, it's abundance, and it's not, we don't have to try to build these relationships. It's just, there's just a knowing that you can tap into, that you can go from never knowing someone to like you've known each other for lifetimes, because it's probably true. Like you do.
We definitely have.
Yeah. So it's like, oh yeah, I already know you. Okay, here we are. Like it's really, really, really wild. Yeah.
The one thing that's dangerous about the internet is there's too many unhealed people that are putting their perception right on the truth. And then they go after ego and wanting a following. And they want to lead others. What I learned a long time ago is I want to lead others to lead themselves. I want to guide people so that they can guide themselves. I want to teach people to fish. I don't ever want to be fishing for them. I don't want to ever be an intermediary, because it's not my job.
So dangerous. And I really do see those collapsing as part of the people who have built platforms like that are collapsing, and it's hard to watch. And it's also hard to create content because there is a paradigm that's coming through that people just aren't ready for, because they're still believing that I've got to do this program, I've got to do this, and I got to do that. And so for me in this middle space, like monetizing has been so tricky, because the way I operate, no one desires yet. And I do know the energetics will take care of me. So it's all done. I don't have to do anything, and just keep staying in my true self, my bliss, and not worrying about anything. And it will happen when it's supposed to happen. And that in between battle is just the work to do. That's all there is to do. The transcendent experience is moving past the brain.
I just release it all, and I just know I'm going to be okay no matter what. Whatever it is, I don't care. I've been a millionaire 3 times, homeless 5 times in this life. So if I lose everything again, I lose everything again. I don't care. Something better will come along right after it. I'm not worried about it. I need the world to catch up to me, not me to catch up to the world. I'm not worried about it. I just put it all out there. I put it all out there for free at all times. I've never asked you for a penny. I don't ask anybody for a penny. It's not who I am. I just can't do it. The monetization is so difficult for me, because I just don't see the value in it.
There's no computation for it. Like that's where I'm at too. I'm like, I don't know how to even try if I wanted to try that. Like it's just, there's no computation for it. And it can be hard. It can be really hard, because you're just like, and then it's the degree of like, you're dysfunctional and you can't work a job and all this kind of stuff. It's like, or I just believe in a different, I don't know. And it's fascinating too with the former religious context, and like that's literally what Jesus was talking about. Like, don't worry about today. Today has its own problems. Like the whole, everything that we've learned from the religious context, I'm like, we're living it as a real thing. And then it's like, and we're the crazy ones. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And I'm dysfunctional or disordered because I live in the way that Jesus called me to. And I'm just like, that doesn't make sense. I don't get it.
I don't have to today.
The hook.
That's where I found my pieces. I just don't have to.
Which just showed up. Whatever part of me that is the make it make sense. There's something rooted in there.
That's your That's your core resistance right there. You want to know the truth? That's your core resistance. Because your mind wants to make everything logical, and most things are not. even close to logical.
Well, and even, well, like quantum physics is beyond the mind. So our whole reality is quantum physics. So if I think I can get it, then there's delusion right there. If I think I can make it make sense, then that's so, yeah, there's a degree of that sobering me too. Something,
Just like go and tap in. It's all good.
yeah,
Promise you, it's all good. Promise you, it all works out.
yeah,
I promise with everything I am that it all works out for you. Promise. With everything I am, I promise you. I feel it. I see it already. I
yeah,
see it all.
yeah. Thank
Which
you.
is torture because it's annoying seeing everything.
And at the same time, what's there for me is like, I can feel that so powerfully. And then I'm like, I know it does. And that's a lot of attention and a lot of people and a lot, like everything, like whatever comes on the other side of it working is overwhelming, is very overwhelming to even consider because I like to be invisible.
Yes. I love being invisible. I
Yeah.
spent years trying to be. It just never worked, no matter how hard I tried. People attracted me no matter what I did. It was really annoying.
Yeah.
No matter how fat I got, no matter how out of shape I got, no matter how overboard I went with everything, it didn't matter. Couldn't get rid of people. Just couldn't get rid of them. They wouldn't leave me alone. The harder I tried to get rid of people, the more that they attracted to me.
That's hilarious. And just see, yeah, the energetics, everything coming out, energetics. And yeah, I had a friend from high school message me last night that was like concerned for my mental health and I need to get balance and all this stuff for me. And it's just like, thank you for another one that is here, like just another friend that is telling me all the things they see wrong with me. And yeah, I'm just like, and what's there for me is my friend isn't well. And so it's hard to be like, I don't get to go over and tell you what to do, that I don't think you're well and you could do X, Y, Z because I know and see you and I could help you transcend the very traumatic experience you went through and where I'm at now. And like it's just, and I guess what's there is fear that's scaring, the fear of being scared of like, oh, I actually could transcend the trauma that I have. Oh, I actually could transcend. That's
the difference between living at this vibration versus living at this one.
yeah.
When you live at this one, you don't say anything. When you
Yeah.
live at this one, you try to over explain everything.
Yeah.
And you're too busy looking through your perception and projecting it onto others. And that's what it comes down to.
Well, and I just saw too, I'm so busy projecting my perception on myself. And so I'm this self-fulfilling projection machine trying to make sense of it, backing it on myself because I won't look at someone else and blame it to someone else because I know it's not them. I know it's me, but I've also created this self-fulfilling machine that doesn't stop either. So that's not getting me anywhere either. And just what you just unlocked of the self-fulfilling projection machine, that cuts. That's really helpful. That's really helpful.
So here, let's try something real quick. Close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths. Okay, now watch the column go directly from source, around you and through you, straight into Mother Earth and infinitely ground you. Nothing can come into it. Nothing gets out of it. You are fully contained within your own energy and directly filled by source to the highest vibration level possible for your being. Does the rest of it matter anymore? There's your answer. Project all you want. It won't matter. It won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
People can't see it anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for whatever you just did. It gave me a very clear action to take for that. That just unlocked a lot for me because it really just did ground me in my body. And it's like, there's nothing here.
Right. You're welcome. This is what I do. How do I quantify what that's worth financially? I can't. It's impossible. It's infinity.
And what I hear is there's one action to take to get you to no action. And
it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter.
Is that like
when
the guru experience where people like the gurus that sit in the mountains and do absolutely nothing because they've just simply discovered there's nothing to do. Let it all go. Just sit here.
They just don't do it in public.
Yeah.
They can't do it in the chaos. They haven't figured that part out yet.
Yes,
they
yes,
stay
yes,
in
yes, yes,
isolation.
yes. Yes,
So should I look up to somebody who has to be in isolation to do it,
yeah,
or somebody who does it in their everyday life?
yeah.
You're a lot more impressive doing it in your everyday life with everything you have going on around you than a guru in the middle of the mountains. They have their role, we have our roles.
Yeah.
My role is to connect every individual being on this planet directly to their own higher power
I
and
feel
give
that.
them what you just experienced.
Yeah,
Then nothing else matters.
yeah,
The rest of it all stops.
yeah. I did just love what you just created for me too, is this degree too of being what I experience is clearing to have embodied enlightenment. And because I operate in the 3D, I get a lot of biofeedback that is very chaotic. And people are like, no, you're not, because this and this and this and this. And I'm like, thank you for more training and more opportunities to get back to this place inside of the chaos. And being able to do that, it is so exciting. And so being able, what you just created, like, yeah, it's really powerful for me to have the possibility of playing with embodiment in the 3D where it's so chaotic, and it is fun. Like, it is a game. It is. And that's what I would say too, that I do see the pursuit of engagement in that world as fun and play and a clearing for my own enlightenment, as I also see it is a microcosm of what I desire to do publicly at a louder scale. And so as I can clear here, then it's just like gets me to the next phase to take the next thing on. And so there's a degree of training ground, because I have a vision too of creating essentially a faux campaign where it's like, I have a Supreme Court case. I have all these things where it's like, I don't even care. Like, I can run the show. And if it gets there, awesome. And also the system may not even be there tomorrow. Like, the degree of like, I'm creating for something that could collapse. And that's what I have too with a lot of people who are in the enlightened spaces, is they're just like, you can't do this, don't do this. And I'm like, I'm doing it for show. And if it does get to the point where I could leverage it, sweet. Maybe I could leverage it, and then we could show a degree of sovereignty available to all humans in the United States of America because of what happened to me. Like, I do feel called, very, very, very clearly called by source to be loud about my story. And it's not to be like, my vision, the clear vision I'm trying to say, is a picture of me with going into the Supreme Court with like a mic drop, because I don't have to say anything, because the whole world is already enrolled in what I'm up to doing. So I don't even need their approval to even do anything, because we've already accomplished it. And it's just leveraging that tension in a way to be able to enroll people. And like, I even too, when I came out, I was like, Hank Jennifer president, like running this presidential campaign as a joke, to simply be heard and make a joke of the system and make a joke of what we've got. And because I'll even say too, like, Hank or the current president, they're like, Hank would probably do a better job. And it's just like, exactly, like, that's what we have. And the insanity that this is what is happening on the planet to function bazillions of dollars and bazillions of people. And this is the degree and caliber and the best we've got. Like, it's just, it's a joke. It's such a joke. It's, yeah.
So here's my suggestion for you. Take
Please,
it for what you want to.
I'm open.
Put yourself in that column every time before you record.
Mm,
Every time.
I love that.
Think about where you'll be coming from, a space that you'll be speaking from.
Yeah.
Who cares if only one person hears you?
Yes.
That one person will be ready. There's
Yeah.
a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll
That
cut
was,
out the noise.
that was really, 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 really helpful. And it gives me a degree of accountability that I want to walk to too, because there is a degree of flippancy and lack of reverence that I can walk for sure when I'm creating, because I'm just like throwing shit out there, seeing what lands. And that really brings it back to be accountable and responsible of like, no, I am tapped in, I am embodied, and whatever comes out, comes out. I'm not going to judge it. And I at least did the work to be responsible, that I've got that, at least that practice to be coming from nothing.
It'll change everything for you.
Yeah, I feel that.
Change everything. Just be you. You're absolutely perfectly you. Just be you. You're absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Back at you. Thank you for being you. Thank you. What shows up, I call my friend Monk in the Mountains. And so, yeah, thank you for being a monk in where you like monk in Manhattan. I don't know where you're located. So
Just outside of Philly.
oh,
I was drawn to the area for one of my purposes, but that's disappeared. And it's more important that I go to 5 years while the collapse of this country happens.
yeah,
And then come back afterwards.
yeah. Yeah. The degree of like wizardry and like energetic weaponry and just like the mastery that we all have. Like it's so exciting. It's really hard to believe that I'm distinct or I have something different than everyone else. Not that I have something different. It's just like, you have this too, right? Like I see a human, you must be like me. And so there's just a degree of, I really struggle to see distinction at all. Really, really struggle to see distinction. And so that lack of distinction ends up I take it personally, and then I get in that hook and that loop, and they're like, "Oh, they're not offering." Like, I think they should.
You are extremely different and unique from every other living being that's ever existed in all of creation. In all of creation.
Mm-hmm. And each of us
No
are.
one has no one has had your experiences. No one has had your past experiences, your future experiences. No one has your core creation.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of us is unique and individual and has its own purpose. And
Which
the
is
only way
so
that this
overwhelming.
world, Mhm.
Like when you actually
And that's
stop
why,
long enough to see that's how I carry that power, and it's not making me distinct or special. It's like copy paste. This is for me, and this is for your me, and this is for your me, and the whole like
Mhm.
you receive that as your me, and how we so quickly project that it's like, oh, that's not for me, that's for her only. And it's like, no, it's for everyone's me. I'm trying to translate because I live like, and actually I've heard this too, like kids come into this world and like me. And that is the language and like the reference we have to ourselves, and we don't have a context for me and who is me. We have who am I, we don't have who am me. And there is like my brain thinks in the consciousness of me, and that's who I am me. Yeah. And that unique distinction that there's no other like there's no other one. This is it. There's only one. So am I gonna be me, or am I going to like not
Pretend to be something else.
yeah, I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna be me out loud.
Even your other concurrent lives that we talked about aren't you.
Yeah.
They're them.
Yeah.
They're tied to you directly through your soul, but they're not you.
Yeah. And that you voice too, that the accusatory you language of whatever old system is so loud too. So there's a degree of shifting the word you out, because I just experienced you very impactful, and being able to like there's only I. And so if I say you at someone, it's creating a distinction of like, you're over there, I'm over here. And it's like, it's an I or an us. Like there's no you, as I'm involving myself in that as well, if that makes sense. Like if I can see it in you, it's also in me. So then it would be us compared to a you. And that vulnerability and what shows up as the word intimacy is so dangerous on the planet from our old context, that it's like, I can't be connected to you. I don't know what's going to happen. And even from my former religious context too, like you were not allowed to talk to dudes at all, because they would do something bad to you if you talk to a male, and you are like, this is bad. And it's just like, it's so wild how we miss the brotherly, sisterly care. There's just no connection because of the distortions that we've created in that world.
And that starts because of the misuse of unconditional love. Because we're taught from our parents or others that unconditional love is conditional. True unconditional love is agape and Ubuntu. That's true unconditional love. That's what God has, is unconditional love.
And really see that foundation of trust in self and trust in own intuition and energy, and actually a distinction between you and another. So you even have the containment to be able to have a trust in self, because you're not like, there's just an awareness. And the codependent culture we have, there's no reference for that. Like that's what I experienced personally too, with my whatever manifested experience is to have this embodied story. I would have never discovered my own energy had I not been taken against my will and put in a box facing my own death. Like that's just like the gift I have, is I know who I am and I know what it feels like. And why for me the most powerful moment of my life was when I literally like grounded my energy and sat in a lotus position, because I got to feel what that feels like here. And so my whole life is like chasing that feeling, because I know what it's like to ground this energy here. And it took a very extreme case for me to have the actual conditions to be able to discover my energy. And I don't even know how you create that without a traumatic experience.
The column.
Yeah. Or for other people on the planet, like how do you even begin
to column.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You don't explain. You show.
Yeah.
You show. You literally show them what it feels like
Yeah.
by walking them through doing it for themselves
I feel that
because
really
it's unique to them.
yeah. Yeah, I feel that really, really, really powerfully. There's so much that just unlocked there.
The degree of somebody what the level of what they're going to feel is based on their level of healing.
Yeah.
So if they're here, I can't explain to them what here feels like. But if they're here, I can't explain to them what their version of here feels like either. I can
Mhm.
explain to them what I feel, the peace, the vibration level that I can calibrate at, which is ridiculous.
Mhm.
But they don't understand that because it doesn't make sense to them.
Yeah.
It's not believable to them. They're still stuck in the head.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's fascinating too, just knowing my own privileged religious brain, that if this content was ever public and it's like, he's smoking and he thinks he's enlightened in that whole experience too. Like, and I've smoked too. And it's like to ground into this density, like it really isn't like I picked up smoking to function. Like when you are in a high vibrational state, there's so much that like I have to eat sugar to like come down. Like there's a degree of like, it grounds me. And so it's people don't understand that, and then they're judging you because you're all hopped up on sugar. I'm like, no, it makes me feel worse so then I can function, because I need to feel like shit in order to be in this density, because if I'm too high, I'm manic and all this other stuff. And so and not that I am manic, I'm perceived as manic when I'm speaking and doing that. And my friend too, she's like, if you are manic, you've had the longest manic episode that I like have ever had. And I'm like, yes. It's like, if you see me in person, I just sit here and bliss out and like do nothing. But once I'm engaging and talking, I talk fast. I have a high energetic frequency. And to someone who doesn't know or connected to source in an awareness space, the shock to their little system because they're listening to me is it's they have to make a judgment and then have a reason why they're done talking to me. And that's the perspective that I get to be in their eyes. And that's where very, 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 very few can hear. And the few that are hearing are the most powerful freaking people on the planet. So the connections that I have, I'm like, I'm literally connected to the most powerful people on the planet. So I don't know what else to do. And it's so exciting. It's so exciting for what's next, and being in this new space and beginning to create from a grounded place and beginning to see what's possible, and the clearing that, yeah, just thank you for the clearing that you've been, and being a voice of reason, and also open to the creative expression that I have too, because there is a degree of control that I've experienced when I have this, like, no, I am called to this mission and I don't understand it, so I need help. And I also get so much control from people because it's like they have their own, like, don't do that, that's the worst idea. I'm like, are you a content creator? Do you know what it's like to have all these followers on TikTok? Do you know what the world I actually live in and what's possible? And me trying to get them to get it, it just doesn't translate. So
they never will. They never will.
Yeah.
But if you start coming from a place from your column of light, it will change everything for you.
I see that. I'm excited. And I'm like, mark this day and time, 104. I'm going to make that commitment and continue to create that.
It will amplify everything.
Oh, what actually just showed too is I almost want to get like a tattoo somewhere to like visually see that, like, just that reminder, that constant reminder. Because there is a degree of, degree of something that I just really need, something that creates the in existence. I have a concept to see it to believe it. It needs to be manifested in the physical for me to have it as a reality. It's like, I need that faith for I know. And so there's something that needs to actually exist out there in the 3D for me to actually anchor back into it. Because if it's not, it's all just thought and it doesn't create anything.
I don't even waste my time attempting to anchor in the 3D anymore.
Yeah.
I just be. Whatever I am. Doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care what people think of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I stopped caring at some point because it's not about me. It's about them.
Yeah.
It's none of my business what anybody else thinks of me. That's one of the best quotes I've ever heard in my life. And I live by that today. It just doesn't matter to me.
And what did you just say? It's not about me. Yeah. It's not, because we were just talking about that me and them. Like, it's not about me. I'm just here to observe. It's not about me. I don't know. Like, which actually had to, I went to a event and they had popcorn and I was walking around with popcorn. I'm like, this is what I actually need to do, is like my like snack stem. I'm like, I just have to take a bag of popcorn everywhere with me. I'm like, I'm just here for the show. I don't know what's happening. To a degree, I'm like, let's watch what's going to happen here. And like the Michael Jackson meme, I'm just like, I'm just watching. Cause it's all a big show. It's all a big show.
The
Well,
level of production depends on the person that's putting
ooh,
out their perception.
yeah. I feel that. Well, I want to let you go, and it's been I'm at 4% battery on this computer too. And that just thank you. Thank you. Like I'm so expanded and yeah, grounded and cleared and just the simplicity, simple. And that's one thing too, when it is in alignment on your timeline for looking at gene keys, the acidic frequencies as they break them all down. There's one in there too that's like, it's pointless to even write this book because essentially it's beyond all of this. So like even reading this is a complete waste of your time because it's beyond that. And the mind likes to do this stuff. So there's a lot of just transmission that I value, that I get that, and translating that to be able to communicate it publicly, I do see as a value of how do I take this massive thing and make it into a TikTok so that it is something that simply people can start chewing on it and creating with it and being able to go from there.
Easy answer.
Yeah.
My answer doesn't change. Go in the column.
Yeah.
It's the simplest answer. It answers every question that you can possibly ever have.
Mm.
Because then you're directly connected. Everything just comes to you. There's no questions anymore.
That seems too simple to be true.
Doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
amazing how complicated we make everything.
Yeah.
We choose to make it difficult.
If it's not simple, it's not true. Is that
I don't know. Is it for you? That's a choice.
yeah.
That's a choice. You can make it as hard or as difficult on yourself as you want.
That
If
is
you want it to be difficult to learn everything, then it's going to be difficult to learn everything. If you want it to be easy, then it's going to be easy. You want
Which
to
I
be
had
connected
learned,
and always connect, then you're
I
connected.
just listened to a podcast that was like, you thinking you came to this planet to learn something is a delusional belief as well.
Mhm.
Like that's all there too. I can't think of the guy's name. He has a podcast episode, which is actually wild too. I had messaged him because there's a book he wrote that says, am I bipolar or am I waking up? And so I messaged him to
Mhm.
bring him onto the show. And then I was in this space of just like ask source. I was like, I would like to connect with more people who are connected to Christ consciousness. And then I clicked on his podcast, listened to one that was super good, watched the second one. And then he's like, yeah, when I wrote this book, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I literally asked this guy to interview a year ago and I didn't reach back out to him because I just wasn't in the space. And now I'm excited to reach back out to him and interview him because there is a degree of alignment now that I can hold this in a way that doesn't, yeah, whatever it was before.
Maybe, where it's just his projection.
Yeah.
If it's meant to be, it'll happen on its own.
Yes.
Stop making it so difficult.
Okay.
It's not about you.
It's not about you. It's not about me. I'm going to mantra that today. Thank you, Michael. See ya.
You're welcome.
Bye.
All right. Bye.